Hey, what's going on, guys? So the March shop just came out, and it's definitely the best shop we've ever had, or at least one of them. It's really, really good, and that's why I want to talk about it. I didn't make a video on last month's shop because it wasn't that great. Royal weapons and the characters weren't too phenomenal, but this one is really good, and so I especially want to talk about it because I want to talk about why it's good and try not to make this video too long. And basically everything in this shop is good. Both of the characters are amazing at C0, but also get a lot better with constellations. They have very important constellations, so I want to talk about those and also talk about the weapons because they are very good. Keep in mind, this is the shop for March. It's out in Asia right now, and it'll be out in America probably by the time this video is uploaded or very soon. So keep an eye out for that. And I want you guys to know I stream almost every night on Twitch. Follow me, link in the description if you want. And that being said, let's get right into the video. Okay, now let's talk about the specific items. And as I mentioned in the intro, like every item here is really good. Blackcliff weapons in general are insane, and I'll try to quickly talk about why. And each of these characters are very good, especially with constellations. And once again, not to repeat myself, but we are going to be talking about the important constellations. And the first thing I want to mention is that the shop is really good for Hu Tao because since she will be a polearm character, Blackcliff pole will undoubtedly be better than like the free-to-play options, right? That aren't that great. But also, Xingqiu is here, who will probably be one of her best supports, just judging by the fact that she's a pyro character who will probably want to spam vaporize with Xingqiu. It should be very good, but we'll get more into that when we talk about them. The first thing I want to talk about is Blackcliff weapons as a whole and why they're good. So Blackcliff weapons all have crit damage as a substat, which is very, very good. Crit on a weapon is usually the best thing, the thing you want the most. And their effect is all the same, and it's actually pretty good. It's especially good when you're fighting a lot of enemies. If you can stack it up, it can really add up to a lot of damage. Basically, whenever you kill an enemy, you gain 12% attack for 30 seconds, and it can stack up to 3 times. And obviously the 12% goes up with the refinement, but I don't really recommend refining these weapons unless you have just a ton of star glitter. And while I think the current Abyss 12 change kind of nerfed these weapons, right, because there aren't like a ton of enemies, so it's hard to stack the Blackcliff pole's effect or other Blackcliff weapons effects, it's still a good weapon overall, and the effect is still handy if you can stack it. And obviously against a bunch of enemies, these weapons are insane. So to quickly talk about each one, I think the Blackcliff longsword is one of the best ones because of the fact that it's a sword with crit damage and a high base attack. So for a character like Kea, who you can run in like a freeze comp, if you're running 4 Blizzard Stray on him with his C1 that gives him crit rate, and with like a Chongyun double cryo, so you have the crit resonance, right? Cryo resonance, which gives crit rate. The stat you want the most is crit damage, so having that on a sword means this is like his best 4-star weapon, just bar none, really, really good. So it's just a good sword overall. Even for characters like Keqing, Blackcliff Longsword is a great option. For the Blackcliff Slasher, this has a high crit damage stat. It's good for all Claymore characters. It's better than Prototype Aminus, so the free-to-play option. I usually say Serpent Spine is better, especially for characters like Razor, but Blackcliff Slasher is a good option. The Blackcliff pole also has a high crit damage substat, or main stat rather, and it's very, very strong because it's way better than like all the free-to-play options for DPS spear users, unless they need pike. Like for physical spear users that want pike, that's better, but for characters like Xiao, Blackcliff pole is very good, and for Hu Tao, this will definitely be better than the free-to-play options. Now, as I said, we don't know that much about Hu Tao yet, but from what we know, I can just assume Blackcliff pole will be good. I don't think it'll be better than like Deathmatch, so if you have the Battle Pass, you might want to go for that. But I do think that Blackcliff pole will be a strong option if you do get it. And to go a bit more in detail, while MiHoYo didn't confirm like Hu Tao's scalings or anything, just the fact that she's a polearm user who's pyro means that Blackcliff pole will probably be good on her. Now, as I mentioned, I don't think it's gonna be better than Deathmatch, but if you don't get the Battle Pass Spear, I think this is going to be one of the better 4-stars to use. We're going to have to see how good Dragon's Bane is and test all that stuff. But I still think Blackcliff pole is going to be a good option. So maybe wait till she's out, and then if you need a spear for her, you can get the Blackcliff pole because it's just a pretty good spear overall. And obviously, I will talk about her weapons in my Hu Tao guide as soon as she's out. Blackcliff Warbow can be good for the high base attack and crit damage if you're spamming charge shot, but keep in mind that for like Ganyu, Prototype Crescent is actually better. Which is the free-to-play one, so I would recommend going that over Blackcliff Warbow so you can save your star glitter. But Blackcliff Warbow is a good option as well, it's just not as good. However, keep in mind if you do stack it 3 times, the DPS I believe is higher, but just realistically and usually Crescent can out DPS it. Something I want to add with the Blackcliff Warbow is that this weapon isn't really talked about that much with Child, and basically what I want to tell you guys is that I rank it right under Viridescent Hunt and Rust for Child, Tartaglia. So if you don't have, like if you have the Battle Pass and you get the bow, or if you have Rust, I would recommend using that. But if not, Blackcliff Warbow is like the next best thing. It is very good because it gives you crit and a high base attack, and it's just pretty good on Child. So yeah, as I said, it's not the best 4-star on him. Like I would choose Viridescent Hunt over Blackcliff Warbow, but Blackcliff Warbow is still very good. So like for a character like Child, if you're like free to play and you don't have the Battle Pass one and you don't have Rust, and you do have enough star glitter, this could be a good option. The last one is the Blackcliff Agate, which I kind of have mixed feelings about. Like, it's still okay because of the stats, but I feel like Catalysts have such good options that I rarely recommend getting this, especially if you have the Battle Pass. Solar Pearl is so good. A lot of the 4 stars like Widsith are just better, or, you know, just really good as well. And even the free-to-play option like Mapamare is good on specific characters. So Blackcliff Agate, I am scared to recommend it, but it can be good on some characters. Okay, sorry if I talked fast for that part. I kind of didn't want to repeat myself on Blackcliff since I mentioned it in my last drop video. But now we get to talk about the important stuff, the 2 characters and their constellations. So first up, we have Xingqiu. Xingqiu is arguably the best 4-star, definitely one of the best 4-stars in the game, and he gets much, much better with constellations. Now, just to make it clear, he's very good at C0, and I recommend you use him in a lot of comps at C0. And I want to say it now, I believe Xingqiu will be Hu Tao's best support. Now, just from what we know, just from the official news, she's a pyro character, attacks fast, and can apply pyro. Now, we don't know her internal cooldown and all that, but just generally speaking, with Xingqiu's burst and Xingqiu on a sacrificial sword, for example, being able to spam his burst, it'll let Hu Tao basically spam reverse vaporize, constantly dealing 1.5 times damage on her hits, and that should be the best, he should be the best reaction support for her. Now, since I'm trying to keep this video kind of short, I can't really get into why spamming reverse vaporize is usually better than spamming melt. But do check out Zajef's video in the description on elemental reactions and elemental gauges and stuff. It's very informative. But TLDR, basically, just spamming Vaporize, especially with Xingqiu and how fast he applies Hydro. And because of the way Pyro on Hydro works, basically, reverse Vaporizing reduces the amount of gauges you remove by 2. Just TLDR, you can spam Vaporize more than you can spam Melt, usually with Pyro characters. Now, I know there's some Pyro carries that want Melt, like Bennett with Chongyun, but for Hu Tao, it is highly suspected that Xingqiu will be her best support, once again, because of the way spamming Vaporize with Xingqiu should work. But once again, she's not out. I'm just relying on official info, what I've seen, judging by like the small amount of footage we've seen of her being a pyro character. But yeah, highly recommend Xingqiu. That being said, Xingqiu has some amazing constellations. His C1 isn't that great because it doesn't increase his damage. This just increases the rain swords, which basically gives you more resistance, well, 1 more hit of damage reduction, and it can heal you. But the actual really good ones are C2, which is very good, C3 for more damage, and C6, which is amazing. 4 and 5 are pretty good too, but C6 is absolutely insane if you do get it. Now, I know I'm going to get the question a lot on if it's worth getting something like a C1, and while C1 itself isn't that great, I would still recommend it if you can, because it gets you closer to the other constellations, right? So it gets you closer to C2, which is very, very good, same with C3, and you know, all his other constellations are pretty good. It's just mainly C1 that's not that great. So prioritize basically what you need the most from the shop. But if the only thing you're considering is like a C1 Xingqiu, you could get it just so it gets you closer to the other ones, if you do want to. The second character in the shop is Ningguang, and she is great. I really, really like playing Ningguang. I know she's not for everyone, but I find her super fun and very strong. Now, something I want to clarify is that, yes, you can play her at C0, and with like Albedo, or if you have, I know they're 5 stars, but Albedo or Zhongli work both very well with Ningguang. But just in general, I think she can be a good carry, especially with constellations. Now, the main thing I did want to clarify is that she gets a lot better. Like, the difference between a C6 Ningguang and a C0 Ningguang is pretty astronomical. However, I do still think she's pretty good at C0, so you can definitely play her if you like her, and definitely go for her if you don't have her. That being said, there are 2 very, very important constellations. First of all, C2 is amazing. It kind of changes how you play her. Basically, when your Jade Screen is shattered, you'll get it back. And what's really important about that is that, yes, sometimes it can randomly shatter, but the main thing is when you use your ultimate, your burst, it does shatter the screen. So what you can do is you can press E, then press Q, and then press E again. And what that does is basically you can double your Jade Screen damage, right? Because you place the screen, you can walk through it to proc your talent, your passive, and then you can use another Jade Screen, so just more damage, right? You can Jade Screen twice instead of once. Really, really good. Now, the other constellations are fine, but the main really, really good one is C6, right? Because C3 and 5 just kind of increase your damage, and C4 is whatever. Like it increases your elemental resistance, which doesn't really do much. But C6 is really strong. Basically, it'll give you 7 Star Jades when you Star Shatter, and by doing that, you can do a charge attack without consuming stamina, and more importantly, firing a bunch of Star Jades at enemies, doing a ton of damage, right? Damage per Star Jade is 50% here, only at level 1. Obviously, it goes way up, and I'm on my Asia account right now. That's why my talent levels are low. But yeah, very, very strong constellation, boosts your damage. So definitely, if you use Ningguang a lot, I would recommend going for constellations. And if you like her as a character, and like you don't have her, definitely get her, once again, if you do like her. Yeah, I feel like I'm out of breath. I don't know if I'm talking too fast. I'm always too nervous. But yeah, I do think just as a TLDR, Ningguang is a great character and gets a lot better with constellations, notably C2 and C6. So overall, this shop is absolutely amazing. Literally everything in it is really good. Blackcliff weapons are insane and much better than Royal. Now, I would never recommend buying a Royal weapon ever because Blackcliff exists, right? Royal on their own aren't like super terrible, but just because Blackcliff exists, it's never worth buying a Royal because you could just buy Blackcliff instead. That being said, there's also two amazing characters, Ningguang and XIngqiu, which both get better with constellations. XIngqiu is probably going to be Hu Tao's best support from what we know right now. And he's just great overall. One of the best 4-stars in the game, if not the best. So yeah, overall, very good shop. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative. I'm going to be streaming Hu Tao's release on Asia. Link in the description if you want to watch. Come follow me. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you want to. If you don't, that's okay too. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.